Hi guys, it's Amy with Aim to Plan, and today I am here to talk future planning. So, you guys all know if you've been following along on my channel that I love to use multiple planners, and one of the things that I love to do is switch between planners. So, it's not just that I use several different planners, it's that sometimes I will switch even between months or between weeks into a different planner. So, what do I do then if I'm constantly switching it out? Where do I keep all of those events that I need to keep track of? Like, where do I do my planning? So I wanted to talk to you about what I do, some suggestions that I have, things that I've used in the past, and I really wanted to talk to you about my current system. So I've got a couple of items here. I'm going to just start from the top and go down. So the first thing here is my phone. I will go ahead and say that the biggest tip and one that I've always used is to track everything in a calendar. And so I personally do use Google Calendar. And you can see here that I'm able to make any event. I know it's kind of small, I'm sorry about that, but like just as an example, this is Sunday. I'm able to create an event, and this event in particular is church, and I'm able to create the event and make it be where it's repeating, so I don't have to write it over and over again. And so it's nice to have it in Google Calendar so that way I can track it. So that is the first thing. I do go in here and regularly include all of my events, especially routine or like weekly events. Those things all end up on here. For Google Calendar, I only put in things that are events. So I consider events to be things that have a time or a date, or both that are attached to it. So, for example, for me, an event would be something like a holiday. So if New Year's Day is always January 1st, that's an event that would go into Google Calendar. I would put it in there as an all day event. I would also, of course, put in things like doctor's appointments because that has a certain date and time. I put in things like church because that also has a certain date and time. I don't, in my Google Calendar, worry so much about putting location. Generally speaking, I know where I'm going to these events, and I don't typically do things like put buffer time or like travel time, commute time, any of that type of stuff. I pretty much just put the events. And so I do use Google Calendar for keeping track of all of my events. I will say that I have used Google Calendar probably since high school, and so I'm going on 25 years now. And I continue to use Google Calendar. I continue to update Google Calendar, and so the basics of it is that I put all of my events in there. Certainly I can, and I'm still going to do this, I think, sometime in the next couple of months, record a video for how I set up Google Calendar and the different systems that I have in place to track my stuff on Google Calendar. The basics, though, are I put my events in there, and especially repeating events, I go ahead and create an event and make it repeating. And so that way I only have to put it in the one time. So that's the first thing that I use to keep track of my events. I always carry my phone everywhere with me. And so I like to have my phone and just jot the things down. And I would say that probably the very first place that events go is in my phone. And the bonus here is that my husband has access to our Google Calendar, and so or my Google Calendar, and so he's able to see my events, and so it's nice that he has basically real time access to my calendar at any given time. But I also like to keep track of it in a paper form, and so I have Google Calendar, and I definitely put it in there. But I also like to have my paper copy of my planner, and not just my planner, but my like future events. So, for my paper version of my future calendar, I have purchased these planners. This has been my go to for 2024, and it will be my go to for 2025 as well. But in previous years, I've done different iterations of some kind of paper planning. I'll show you an example of that in a little bit and give you my, I guess, like tips for doing something that maybe is more cost effective for you. But these I did purchase, and they're not that expensive, and I basically just throw these into my purse. They pretty much live in my purse, and I'm able to use it as a quick reference to look at and transfer in data in here. I've been trying to get into the habit of putting them in here first, just because I do like to have the paper version of it. But I also do realize that my husband, uses Google well, he doesn't really use it, but he has access to my Google Calendar, and so it's just in real time easier to do that. So I do at this moment do put both of my or put all of my events in both Google Calendar and in this paper format. And so let me just show you what this looks like. I'm going to flip here into like September, right? This is my little book. It is a weekly planner, as you can see here. I will link this in the description so you can get a copy of this if you'd like. I left it just like it is. It's just like a cute little book. It's about 3 by 4 inches, so it's tiny, like the palm of my hand tiny. And I write all the events. Now, it's just pen to paper, as you can see here. And so as things get canceled or get moved, I just cross it out, and just, write all the things in here. But I've got events like you can see here all the way into October. I put school closures, like basically anytime I get like a big calendar, I like to sit down and just write them all in here. Now, I like it where I'm able to write in this book, especially when I get like, for example, like a sports schedule. It's, to me, so much easier to put it into a paper planner than to do it on my phone in Google Calendar, just because Google Calendar, you have to set the time and things like that. And I really just want to make note of the event. I don't want to worry about like the time or things like that. Sometimes you'll see here, I put like a little notes to myself. I right now need to, like right here, November 25th, I have to schedule Rosie's 2-year appointment. And so she was born in December. And so I put a note to myself to schedule that. But you can see it's just like all the events, right? And this is what it looks like for 2024. Now I will say I've already got the 2025 and I've already done the same thing. So you can see here, I've already went in with the school schedules that I got from both of my girls, and I've written in all of the things, right? So it's just, like I said, pen to paper. Things can get scratched out in here and get moved around, but I just like it as a quick reference. And I especially like it to put like the where you get like a long list of like all the school dates and all the no school days and like all the sports schedule dates and times and things like that. I just like to be able to write it in the book. It's just easier to me to do that. So again, it does live in both of these places. It will go into my phone eventually, but usually I like to try to find the pattern in like a sports schedule and just put a repeating event and then just delete the days that don't apply. But yeah, like there's a whole system that I have for Google Calendar. So I like to put like those kind of like longer lists of activities into a paper planner first and then transfer it over to Google Calendar. So with that being said, though, I know some people might not want to use the technology. They're not a digital planner. They don't want to use a digital product, and they might not want to buy something else. So if you are a happy planner, one thing that I have done in the past is used my planner. So there are 2 ways that I have done this in the past, and I think both ways are absolutely valid. So it's just up to you which one works the best for you, or what you might want to consider for yourself. But the first very easy, I think, way to kind of get into future logging or tracking all those future events is to use these yearly overview pages. So you can absolutely just put pen to paper and just track all those future events. Just make sure that you are referencing this regularly. So take your planners with you, take your planner with you when you go to doctor's appointments and things like that. So that way you can have a record and know what else is coming up for you, so that way you can track it. So I don't actually use these pages anymore. I did in the past. I would say 2021, 2022, 2023 even. I was using this as a future log to track all these future events. The big thing for me was I felt like it was very cramped. And so it's only one line. And so if I have, for example, 2 or 3 events or like a repeating event, like church, that I'm writing every single Sunday, but then I also have something else on Sunday, how do I put those pieces of information, right? There's really only the one line. And so that's why I prefer this little book, because it gives you 5 lines per day. And it's slim, it's like a tiny little book, but it gives me enough space to write it. But definitely, if you don't want to buy anything else, you can use these pages for sure. And maybe I would suggest like coding, like, so instead of like writing out church the full word, just putting a C or like putting a shape or a like washi dot or something like that, and just putting in the corner what that color meant, right? So you could definitely do that. You could use like any stickers that you have, like icons, smaller icons, to denote like sports events, things like that. So that's what I would recommend if you don't want to go outside of the Happy Planner system. Oh, I want to also mention, I've never done this, but I do want to also mention that these yearly overview pages, they do have the spaces for you to track events as well. So you can definitely use this as event tracking. I've seen people convert this to like goal setting, but certainly, I mean, it could be for events as well. And so you can color code in here and write your key here, or just write the events themselves here. So those are really good options for you if you want to keep it in the Happy Planner system. The other place or places that I think that you can absolutely do future planning are on your currently page and on your monthly page. So let's talk a little bit about this. Now, I've pulled here an older planner, but let me just flip to like October. Okay, let's just say I've got some events coming up in October of 2024, or just a future month. There are a couple of things that I can do. Just pen to paper, write it down, and call it a day, right? There is usually a designated space where you can take notes or like have events listed. I would personally probably put it in the important section, just like put a box or like make a list here or have a checklist, and then just put the date and the events here. I think that absolutely will work. You can use this bottom section that's take note and just kind of put it with the rest of the events here and just make it pen to paper. This page right now is already decorated, so I feel like I wouldn't even need to decorate it. I would just put pen to paper. So that's an option. The other option is, of course, to use your monthly. So absolutely go in here, put your plans right into the monthly, and use your monthly as your kind of like functional planning. Definitely, if you don't want to or need to, pen to paper. Just keep it simple. Put your plans on paper and just have it here. And if you do use the monthly, I would recommend, I personally don't like to take apart my planners in the sense of like pieces of it are here and pieces of it are somewhere else stored separately. So I don't follow that idea of like leaving only the dividers and the months in here and then taking the weekly pages out. I actually don't do that. I just leave it all together. But if you want to do that, you can absolutely like leave just the October monthly and then just take all of these pages out, right? And just store them somewhere else, so that way you can like slim down your planner. Again, I don't like to do that just because I'm very much one of the people who might lose my pages. And so I don't like to take it apart if I have a plan for that planner. I absolutely, if you follow my channel, you will know that I do definitely take apart my planners, but normally I only take apart planners that I don't have a plan for. So if I'm planning to use it or have a future purpose for it, I don't usually take it apart. I actually prefer to leave it on the discs. So that's kind of where I would go, is just make the monthly functional, and it doesn't have to be Instagram pretty, just write your plans in here. If, on the other hand, you do want to make it Instagram pretty, I'll just flip a month and just kind of talk about it here. These are already decorated. I feel like this is not a great example for it, but if you had a more neutral monthly and you wanted to make it pretty before you wrote your plans in it, I would suggest, and I've done this before, I would suggest decorating ahead of time. So your monthlies are 12 months, 12 spreads that you can decorate in advance. So put all of your stickers for your monthly. A lot of people like to do a seasonal theme. So just do the seasonal theme for your monthly. Take your pictures for Instagram before the pen, and then you can use it as a place to jot down all your notes. So make it decorative, use your stickers, and then take your photos, put your plans in at the end. And so again, I have done that before. I actually really enjoyed doing that. I will try to remember to link a video where I actually did some pre-planning very similar to that, where I did all of the decorating for the months in advance. And so like I said, that really worked for me. And I think that could be very beneficial, where you're able to use your stickers, but also be able to track your future events. And I think a lot of times, for people who are like trying to get into decorative planning and using the stickers, they kind of wait until the last minute sometimes, right? So you're decorating and you are like going, for example, in November 2024, this monthly, you'll decorate like the last week of October, but there's nothing that keeps you from decorating in advance, right? So it's right now September. I can decorate April 2025 if I wanted to. There's absolutely nothing holding me back from decorating in advance, right? So I can decorate all of 2025, all 12 months of 2025 if I wanted to. Put the plans in here, and that would be totally okay. So that's really my recommendation, is if you don't want to use or spend more money, I personally would lean towards using the monthly. I feel like that would give you more room. You can always white out or put a sticker over canceled plans, or write in pencil, and then just kind of erase it. I personally don't like doing that. I feel like then I'm just writing it over and over again. But I would just put it in pen, and if something gets canceled, I would just put a sticker over it and write a new plan on top of it. But if that is, maybe a little bit too much forward planning, and you don't want to take the joy out of decorating in advance, take use of your yearly overviews. Or if you don't want to touch your planner at all, as I've already mentioned, I purchase these because I do this. And also, as you probably know if you follow me, I don't actually use a planner for 12 months. And so doing the 12-month system works in theory, but I switch planners so often that it just doesn't work for me. And so I have this as my coverage for like the entire year. I know for sure I'm going to use these even if the rest of my planners change out. So I do use this, and of course I use my Google Calendar on my phone to be able to track things. I rarely use, well, I do use Google Calendar on a computer, but mostly I use it on my phone. And so this is where I like kind of just jot it in really quickly, especially, those important major events, but also repeating events, and just get everything in. And I personally, right now, use my Google Calendar and use these little books right here. And I now, since we're at the end of 2024, I had to carry both of them with me. But even carrying both of them, it's not that much space in my purse. And so this is what I have with me pretty much everywhere, at home, on the go, in my purse. And so I can basically write things down all the time. But if you don't want any of that, like I said, there are options for you to use your Happy Planner in a way where you're able to track your future events. You just have to think a little bit ahead, and be able to do that. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Again, I've used all of these methods myself. I've used the yearly overview, I've used the monthly. I'm currently using these two things. And so these are tricks that I have done to keep track of my future events. These are not things that I'm just making up. I have used them myself. And so, again, I will try to remember to link the videos so that way you can see at least some of this in action. I'll try to find a couple that will be along the lines of what I'm saying here. And so, like I said, I hope it was helpful to you to give you some ideas for how to track your future events. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel. And until the next video, bye guys.